Under the blazing noon sun, the town square lay drowsy and quiet, its cracked pavement shimmering with heat. Vendors fanned themselves half-heartedly, children darted between market stalls, and a few men played cards in the shade of a crumbling wall. No one expected disaster, until the sky itself seemed to shudder. A sharp crack rang out, like stone splitting under a hammer. From the edge of an unfinished building, a slab of concrete broke loose. It spun through the air, casting a sudden shadow, and before anyone could shout a warning, it smashed down onto a lone man crossing the square. He fell without a sound, blood blooming across the dusty ground. Gasps erupted. Some screamed. Others froze, convinced they had just witnessed a man's final breath. Then, impossibly, the air above rippled. A silver shape tore through the sky, gleaming against the harsh light. It was no plane. No helicopter. It moved with unnatural precision, hovering silently above the square. The crowd staggered backward, fear and disbelief twisting their faces. Mothers clutched their children. A group of old men dropped their cards and stumbled away. The craft descended, its smooth metallic skin catching the sun, and from its underside a pale glow spread. A beam enveloped the fallen man's body. Dust rose, stones shifted, and in stunned silence the people watched as the slab that had crushed him was lifted effortlessly aside. His chest moved. His fingers twitched. The glow intensified, wrapping him in an otherworldly cocoon of light. "Run!" someone shouted. Panic surged. The marketplace dissolved into chaos as people scattered in every direction, trampling baskets of fruit, overturning carts, shoving one another in blind terror. Only a handful dared to watch, peering from doorways and alleys, their eyes wide with both dread and awe. The glow receded. The UFO tilted slightly, as if examining its work, then in a flash of light it shot back into the clouds and vanished without a trace. The man stirred. His eyes flickered open, reflecting something strange, an unnatural shimmer, as if starlight had rooted itself inside his gaze. He coughed, gasped for air, and slowly sat up. People stared from a safe distance, whispering frantic prayers. Some crossed themselves, others muttered curses. He felt different. Alive, yes, but also, charged. Power thrummed beneath his skin, like an invisible current dancing along his veins. He staggered to his feet, confused, scanning the horrified faces around him. They recoiled, unable to meet his eyes. Fear radiated from the crowd. He looked down at his own trembling hands, and for the first time realized they were glowing faintly. Something had changed inside him. At first, he thought it was only a miracle of survival. But as he stumbled away from the square, flashes of strange knowledge filled his head, formulas, patterns, ideas that weren't his own. His heart raced, his breath came fast. He could almost hear whispers in an alien tongue, yet somehow understood their meaning. That night, sitting alone in his small apartment, he discovered the truth. A crumpled banknote lay on the table, $10 he had left in his pocket. He bought food with it, barely thinking, but when he checked his account later, the number shocked him, 10 million had appeared. His chest tightened, his skin prickled with fear. He tried again with another $1. Minutes later, 1 million more was there. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't an illusion. Every $1 he spent returned multiplied 1 million times. His mind reeled. He tested it again and again, each time more frantically than the last. The results were the same, instant wealth, unfathomable, unstoppable. Yet with each test came a quiet warning, echoing in his head like a voice not his own, *, this power is not eternal. 4 hours only, *. 4 hours. That was all. The next morning, still dazed, he walked through the streets trying to process it. That was when he saw them, 2 rough men tugging at a rope tied around a dog's neck, dragging the whimpering animal toward a waiting truck. Its eyes were wide with terror, its paws scraping against the pavement. Something inside him snapped. Without hesitation, he rushed forward. How much? He demanded. The men sneered, confused. I'll buy the dog. Name your price. They exchanged a look, then one spat out a number at random. 137. The man pulled out the cash and shoved it into their hands, yanking the rope free. The dog whimpered, pressing against his leg in relief. Minutes later, when he glanced at his phone, his bank balance nearly made him collapse. $137 million. It was real. All of it. For the first time, he believed. And with belief came fire. A plan, wild and reckless, formed in his mind. By afternoon, he was standing on the steps of the town hall, voice booming across the square that had nearly been his grave. Listen to me. Whatever you buy, I will purchase it back for 10 times the price. Bring me anything, food, clothes, machines, livestock. 10 times. At first, people thought he was mad. But when the first merchant tested him, selling a bag of grain and receiving 10 times its worth, the madness became contagious. Shouts rang out. Crowds surged forward. Within minutes the square was alive with feverish trade, lines of villagers pushing carts, carrying crates, hurrying with goods of every kind. And in just 1 hour, his fortune soared beyond imagination. $500 billion. He stood at the center of it all, dizzy with power, while the numbers climbed higher and higher. Yet even as the frenzy built, he felt the first tremor of something wrong, the current inside him faltering, the whisper's shifting tone. The system was collapsing. The multiplication began to shrink. 1,000,000 times became 1,000. And he knew, with a cold certainty, that his time was running out. Only 1 hour left. 1 hour to decide what kind of man he would become. The rush of adrenaline was intoxicating. The man, still stunned by the sheer magnitude of his newfound power, surveyed the chaos he had created. Crowds surged around him, goods changing hands at lightning speed, and everywhere he looked, faces were alight with greed, excitement, and disbelief. Some people screamed in joy, others cursed themselves for not thinking faster, and a few simply collapsed under the weight of their own astonishment. But in the midst of this frenzy, his mind was already calculating, strategizing, searching for the next opportunity. He could feel the energy pulsing through his veins, a steady hum that seemed to sync with the beating hearts of the people around him. For hours, it was all the time he had to reshape not just his life, but the entire town, perhaps the world. It began with small, calculated purchases. He bought entire blocks of property, carts of livestock, and crates of electronics, watching in disbelief as the money poured back in with exponential force. The townspeople, initially skeptical, soon realized that the rules had changed. Murmurs of, "He's a magician," and "He's blessed by the gods," rippled through the crowds. But it was more than luck, it was precise, methodical, unstoppable. Then he saw her, his ex-girlfriend, striding confidently into the square, her heels clicking against the stone pavement, designer handbag swinging at her side, eyes scanning the chaos like a predator assessing prey. She had always been clever, ambitious, but also reckless with money. She laughed at the spectacle at first, but when she caught sight of his figure, standing tall amid the frenzy, she froze. Recognition flashed across her face, quickly replaced by curiosity, and greed. The man felt a surge of clarity. This was more than coincidence. She had always sought wealth, power, and influence, and now, she stood directly in his path, a live experiment in human avarice. He smirked, knowing exactly how to exploit it. Without hesitation, he approached her, offering a crisp stack of bills. 1 million, he said evenly, holding her gaze. If you can spend 500 billion, I'll give you 1 billion more as a reward. Her eyes widened, pupils dilating with the speed of her rising pulse. Hunger and desire wove through her features. She didn't hesitate. She accepted. Together, they left the square and headed toward the private jet manufacturer on the outskirts of town, a place that symbolized luxury, excess, and untouchable wealth. The building was vast, gleaming under the sun, its polished glass reflecting the bustling town behind them. As they approached, a female sales manager stepped forward, blocking the entrance, arms crossed, an amused smile on her lips. "You can't afford the jets here," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. The man's eyes narrowed, a low smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I want to buy all of them," he said calmly, handing his credit card to another salesperson. The subtle weight of his confidence made her hesitate, just slightly, though she did not fully comprehend the storm standing before her. The tour began. He walked through hangars lined with jets, the sleek curves and polished exteriors reflecting a wealth that dwarfed anything he had ever imagined. His ex-girlfriend followed closely, whispering numbers, estimating prices, greed etched into every line of her face. When she asked about one jet, the salesperson quoted $1 billion. The man shook his head. Too cheap. He saw another, a model with advanced avionics and reinforced fuselage, and demanded to see it. This time, the figure rose to $15 billion. Still, he was unimpressed. "Show me the most expensive one," he said, eyes glinting. Shock rippled through the staff. The most costly jet in the fleet was worth $100 billion. The man didn't blink. He signed the papers without hesitation, his ex-girlfriend gaping at the display of audacious wealth. Yet the thrill of buying was only the beginning. He realized the real power lay in control, the manipulation of desire, the bending of ambition to his will. With the clock ticking and the multiplication rate decreasing, he began to push limits. Every purchase was a calculated move, each transaction designed to test the boundaries of reality itself. He bought entire factories, entire fleets of vehicles, and even small stretches of city streets. The ex-girlfriend, meanwhile, scrambled to keep pace, spending recklessly, driven by her promise of the billion-dollar reward. Hours passed like minutes. The sun hung low, shadows stretching long across the tarmac. The multiplication rate dropped, warning him that time was almost gone. Yet he felt no panic, only a thrilling clarity, as if every choice, every action, was magnified by the strange alien energy that now governed his life. As evening fell, the man stood atop a platform overlooking the sprawling collection of wealth he had accumulated. Jets, buildings, vehicles, all arranged meticulously under his gaze. The town below, once mundane and predictable, now thrummed with chaos and possibility. People whispered his name, speculated about his origins, and marveled at the scale of his influence. Then, unexpectedly, the sky changed. The first stars appeared, not as mere points of light but as faintly glowing signals, pulsing with a rhythm that resonated deep within him. A shiver ran down his spine. He understood instinctively that his time was almost up. 4 hours had passed in perception but felt like a lifetime in experience. The alien's gift was waning. He turned to his ex-girlfriend. Her eyes were wide, a mix of fear, exhilaration, and greed. She had spent recklessly, yet the true lesson had only just begun. He realized that wealth, power, and influence were temporary, fleeting. Measured not just in dollars, but in the choices one made under pressure, in the courage to act when the world seemed boundless and impossible. And then, just as the final moments approached, the man felt something stir deep within the alien energy. It was a pulse, stronger, brighter, calling him to an action yet unimagined, something beyond the simple multiplication of money. It was a chance to reshape not just his life, but the very fabric of opportunity, risk, and ambition itself. The crowd, still watching from below, had no idea that the most astonishing chapter was about to begin. The man clenched his fists, feeling the last surges of the alien power. With every heartbeat, every breath, every decision, he prepared to step beyond the ordinary, to transcend limits that had once seemed insurmountable. The game had only just begun, and the rules were entirely his to write. The final hour approached with a tension so thick it felt like the air itself had solidified. The man stood at the center of his sprawling empire of wealth, jets gleaming under the late afternoon sun, buildings stretching into the sky, and countless goods and treasures amassed at his command. The alien energy that had once surged through him now flickered, dimming in erratic pulses, like a dying star. Every heartbeat, every breath, reminded him that time was running out. He turned to his ex-girlfriend, whose face was pale, eyes wide, and hands trembling. She had spent recklessly, fueled by greed and ambition, buying the most extravagant items, pouring her energy into this challenge, yet she still seemed small in the shadow of his control. The man understood that this was more than a test of wealth, it was a test of human desire, of what people would do when given limitless opportunity. With a calm he did not fully feel, he addressed her. "You've done well," he said, voice steady. "But this ends now. Everything you've purchased, every move you've made, it's all about to culminate in a single choice." Her eyes darted nervously around the massive hangar, the loaded streets, the towering stacks of goods. Panic and exhilaration warred across her features. She opened her mouth, but no words came. She had felt the power, the intoxication of infinite potential, and now she understood its fragility. The man glanced at the clock on his wrist. Just minutes remained. The multiplication of wealth had slowed, and soon it would cease entirely. Yet even in this moment of limitation, he felt the pulsing potential of the alien gift lingering faintly, a whisper, a reminder that what had been given could be used wisely, or lost in greed. He made a decision. Every jet, every building, every acquisition, the ultimate consolidation of his empire, was now under his direct control. He began to distribute power, resources, and wealth to those who had shown ingenuity, courage, or loyalty during the brief window of opportunity. Townspeople who had hesitated at first, unsure of the rules, now found themselves suddenly rich, able to change their lives permanently. Small business owners, families, and even the local schools were beneficiaries, their astonishment matched only by their gratitude. His ex-girlfriend watched in disbelief, her earlier hunger for riches now tempered by a dawning understanding. He handed her a final sum, not as a reward for reckless spending, but as a test of judgment and character. "Use this wisely," he said. "It is not the money that defines us, but how we wield it." And then, the light began to fade. The alien energy, once a raging river of limitless potential, withdrew completely. He felt the hum within him vanish, leaving only the residual warmth of possibility and the clarity of purpose. The townspeople, too, felt the shift, as if the universe had taken a deep breath and returned them to the ordinary flow of life, but forever changed. Even without the alien power, the man's position had transformed irrevocably. His decisions, his foresight, and his willingness to act under pressure had cemented him as a figure of influence, not merely in wealth but in leadership and vision. The jets remained his, the buildings his, but their purpose was no longer simply ostentation, it was foundation. Foundations for opportunity, for innovation, for progress. At twilight, standing atop the tallest structure in town, he looked over the streets, the markets, the people who had once fled in fear. He saw resilience, courage, and ambition reflected back at him. He saw that human potential, when unleashed responsibly, was as powerful as any alien gift. And in that moment, he understood a truth far greater than the multiplication of money, that real power lay not in possession, but in transformation, the ability to change the lives of others while shaping one's own destiny. As night fell and the first stars pierced the sky, the man felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of completion. The lessons of fear, desire, and ambition had been written in real time, leaving a legacy that no wealth, no alien technology, could ever match. The town, once ordinary and predictable, was now a living testament to opportunity and audacity. His ex-girlfriend, wiser and humbled, approached him. No words were needed. The understanding passed silently between them, power was fleeting, but character endured. They watched the stars together, knowing that the true adventure, beyond money, beyond alien gifts, was only just beginning. And as the world slept beneath a sky dotted with constellations, he realized that the most extraordinary power was not the millions that had multiplied in his account, but the vision, courage, and resolve that could take a man from ordinary life to something genuinely extraordinary. The alien gift had ended, but the story, the story of ambition, transformation, and daring, was only just beginning.